So, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, I guess now. Yes, it's almost 1 o'clock. We're going to begin the market presentation. Thank you all for joining us today, and we are going to begin with Joseph Hughes, the CEO of Shipowners Claims Bureau, Inc., the managers of the American Club. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dorothea. Actually, can you hear me without actually my speaking into the microphone?
Downstairs I can't hear you.
Well, I'm sure they can hear me downstairs. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the magical mystery presentation of the American Club, the matinee, popular with all, I trust. It's actually 2 years since we last held one of these matinees, believe it or not, because of course last year we were celebrating our centennial, and we thought we'd just have a great big party on that occasion, which I hope still figures in the collective memory of the maritime community here. We certainly enjoyed it. But taking a more serious note, thank you all again very much for coming. I will give you a brief progress report on where the American Club and its fixed premium brand Eagle Ocean Marine stands at the present time. Then Vince will talk to certain elements of regulation and running a business against the background of regulation in the modern world. Dorothea, I think, will introduce some of our people with particular emphasis on our Greek community right at the end, I think, and then of course Ilya's Tsakieris will give us an update on what's been going on at American Hellenic Hull. But in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, let me begin with, if I may, this is no. It does, with some recent statistics. It's in a format that I think you'll recognise, those of you who've had the opportunity of being here before. This is a breakdown of our entered tonnage by reference to domicile of management and vessel type. It's weighted by reference to both tonnage and premium. That is to say, equal weight being given to each element of the metrication of these statistics. And you'll see there that the majority of our business comes from EMEA, Europe, Middle East and Africa, of which the preponderant majority in that share, of course, comes from here in Greece. And as I've said on many occasions in the past, our Greek community, our Greek membership, our connection with this most distinguished sector of global maritime trade is the jewel in our crown. We are deeply honoured to be so closely involved with such a distinguished community, and certainly we do everything we can to grow and maintain our business here. North America accounts, of course, which is the platform from which the American Club originally started developing internationally 25 years ago also, is a significant part. Asia, Greater China, Southeast Asia in particular is a large area of our overall business, and the rest of the world follows up there. Mainly Latin America. That might work better. Yes, mainly Latin America and Australasia. By reference to vessel type, we're fairly balanced between most of the main types of ship in international trade at the moment. You'll see that we have 39% of our business in tankers and tanker types, and that includes obviously some of our green water business, our black oil business along the coast of the United States. 32% in dry bulk carriers, 19% general cargo vessels, passenger ships, ro-ros and so on, and 10% tugs, barges and small craft, which again is mainly the business that we have out of North America. Looking at retained claims, the development of retained claims, that is to say claims within the club's own retention, the first 10 million of exposure to any one claim before claims go into the international group pool and the general excess of loss reinsurance, of which I don't doubt those of you who know the group well will be very aware of how that works. But retained claims show what our burning costs have been over recent years, what we're actually retaining for our own account, what the underlying performances of the club and its members has been in that particular context. And this is a graph that shows the number of claims that we have annually for every million tons entered, so that there's a constant per million tons. Obviously it will vary a bit from year to year depending on the tonnage that you have, but if you calibrate it by reference to each million tons of entered tonnage, I think you get a better view over time as to how things are developing. And also the actual the cost of claims per gross ton. So the one concerns frequency, the other concerns severity of claim, broadly speaking. The number of retained claims per million gross tons was just under 100 for the years between 2011 and 2015. It dropped down in 2016 to 2017 at about 75, so there was a significant drop in frequency during those years. For 2018, and of course 18 is an incomplete year, we're coming up to the 10th month of development from February the 20th for 2018, but it has shown another good trend. We have only about 35 or so claims per million tons so far this year. Now that will increase inevitably over the forthcoming months, particularly as we come into the winter season in the Northern Hemisphere. But the trend has been positive in terms of frequency of claims in recent years. If you look now at the average claims cost per ton, that moves around a bit, as you might expect it to do from year to year. But certainly there was a significant drop in 2015, which was an extremely good year, which we closed earlier in 2018 in surplus, and was the best year so far, best complete year so far of the last 12 years in terms of average cost per tonne. It peaked a bit in 2016, mainly because we had two relatively large claims at the beginning of that year. But in 2017, it came down to about $2 a tonne. And so far for 2018, I'm pleased to say, we've had some very good development. The figures as of November the 20th, which is the 9th month of development for 2018, were fully 23% better than they had been for 2017 at the same stage of emergence. So that's a nice trend to have. We are hopeful that 2018 will turn out to be a very good year, but of course, as I said earlier, coming into the winter season in the Northern Hemisphere, that can change, but we are optimistic that 2018 will be a good claims year for the club in regard to its retained exposures. What about the pool? The pool is the mechanism within the international group that provides for the sharing of cover between 10 million, which is the ceiling of individual clubs' retained claims, and 100 million, at which point the group collectively negotiates a reinsurance policy in the market. So that covers the 90 million stretch in various layers and subject to various reinsurance arrangements involving the group's wholly owned protected cell captive in Bermuda called Hydra. But simply put, this represents the larger claims that are typically experienced by the international group over time. And if we look at the development here, you'll see that there was in 2011 and 2012, started falling off a bit in 2013, rather significant claims on the pool. In 2011, of course, it was the Costa Concordia and the Reina claims. In 2012, I don't think there was a particular claim that was as notorious as those two, but there were nonetheless a fairly large number of fairly big claims within the pool. It improved dramatically back into 2014, up a bit in 2015. 2016 was an extremely good year for the pool, picked up again in 2017. 2018 is very, very immature at this point in time, so it's difficult to draw any firm conclusions. I think most clubs will say that there seems to be a bit of a pickup in terms of overall exposures at the pooling layer, but they are more of a reversion to the mean. That is to say, they're normalizing after particularly good years from 2014 to 2016. So they'll probably be picking up a bit over the next year or two, but not to a degree I think that most clubs will say that creates a cause for concern at the moment. These, by the way, are figures representing our own contribution to pool claims, but of course they reflect the overall figures within the group, so the statistic has relevance in that respect. Let's have a look at our premium development per gross tonne and retained claims, which we looked at a little while ago, and compare them over recent years. And this blue line shows the development of average premium per tonne over that period. And you'll see, of course, that there was a gradual falling away from about an average of just under $6 a tonne down to about $4 over recent years. And that, of course, is attributable to a variety of reasons. First of all, the churn effect, which many of you will be very familiar with, in fact, and have read about it as well, no doubt, where newer tonnage coming into the market, particularly that surge of new buildings that came in from about 2011, 2012 onwards, displaced older, higher-rated tonnage, and of course created a commensurate reduction in average premium cost per tonne. And that is a phenomenon there. I think the other thing that drives this, of course, and which again I think other clubs will speak about, is the fact that claims have been relatively benign over that period of time too. So in consideration of memberships generally within the group producing good claims results, the clubs have been able to reduce their costs per tonne on average over that period of time. The question is, of course, how much longer than this particular phenomenon of perpetually falling prices actually continue. And that's something that I'll refer to a little later in the presentation. But retained claims per gross tonne, the figure that we saw earlier, and which of course picks up on the comment I made about reducing claims, have again been around up and down a bit. But overall, you can see that for 2015, which is a very good year, and 2018, which is holding out well, they have been on a generally reducing trend over recent years. It varies from club to club, and it varies, I think, in relation to 2018 in particular, but by and large, claims trends have been developing in a fairly benign way, and that has had, too, an impact upon the development of average rates per tonne. Investment performance. This is an important part of the function of any club. As you know, clubs hold significant funds in order to pay future claims, and it is in the interests of the members that they are well invested, but safely invested, the protection of capital being the principal motive. And we've done actually, in relation to our competitors within the international group, I think we're at least in the top quartile over the years in terms of creating good investment returns for our members. 2012 was there, 7.6 return, pretty good for 2013, 2014 a bit lower. 2015 was not a good year for the investment markets generally, but we were positive for the year. We became positive in a fairly modest way upwards in 2016. 2017 was a very good year, mainly driven by stock market developments over that period, and I think that 8.1%, if not the best in the international group for 2017, was certainly in the top 2 or 3. 2018, as at the middle of last month, when Merrill Lynch, who are our investment advisors, reported to the board on the subject, we are slightly ahead. But that's not bad, I think, given what happened in October to the stock market, and of course given the fact that interest rates, as driven by the Federal Reserve in the United States, are rising, and that of course over time has an effect on the capital value of existing bond holdings. So we've done pretty well, I think, to be ahead of the game as at the middle of November. I think we're probably doing a bit better now. The stock market is rallying a bit. It's been very turbulent, but I think we're optimistic that by year end we should have another positive results. It depends on a number of things, and of course you can never predict things absolutely, but we're feeling a bit more relaxed than I think most people were feeling in October. So that's not bad, I suggest. And overall it's an average of about 6% over that period of time. And as I say, I think that's among the very best within the international group. Statutory surplus and free reserves per gross tonne. This is a metric that is frequently used within the industry to show the degree of underlying strength you have in relation to the tonnage that you insure and the free reserves that you hold. We have been remarkably constant in the development of our average free reserves per tonne as calculated by statutory criteria, and we expect at year end to be about the same as where we were in 2017 and 2018. We can't predict that with complete accuracy. It depends to some extent on the investment markets as well, but we're confident that it'll be a pretty good result. I now turn to our Eagle Ocean Marine brand. You may remember that back in 2011, Eagle Ocean Marine was launched as a fixed premium brand of the American Club. in which the American Club is the principal insurer, but which relies on co-venture reinsurance with underwriters at Lloyd's to provide a very specialist fixed premium solution for the insurance needs of operators, typically in local and regional trades, who operate smaller vessels and who don't necessarily want the very high limits of liability, nor the obligations of mutuality that go along with being a member of an international group club. And it's done very well for us, obviously in the interest of the mutual membership, because its justification is producing a return for the mutual membership. It's done very well for us over the years. Its breakdown is a little different from that of the mutual membership. Most of it, as you can see there, comes out of Asia. And that's a function really of the sort of trade in smaller ships that you find in that region. It's split about 50-50 as between Greater China and Northeast Asia and Southeast Asia, which is the preponderant sector of the business at large. Indonesia, of course, being a massive archipelago of islands, and into other areas of ASEAN, Philippines, etc. Greater China, river trade, coastal trade, and so on, makes up a lot of that. But we are growing in this region. EMEA, 11%, mainly here in the Eastern Mediterranean, has been a growth area for us in recent years, and I am convinced that it will continue to grow in the future. By reference to vessel type, again, it's pretty broadly based. As you can see, most sectors are pretty equally represented there. 36% general cargo, container packs, etc. 29% tugs, barges, small craft, mainly out of Indonesia and coastal China. Bulk carriers, there'll be mini bulkers mainly, and the rest made up of smaller tankers. And these are figures as at October the 20th, 2018. We've done rather well in terms of the overall performance of the business, actually, as you'll see from this graph and the next one. The average rate per ton was pretty high, actually, in the original stages, then plateaued a bit, but it's come down as an average rate per ton, mainly because the average size of vessel has increased just slightly over that period. But happily, the retained claims per gross ton have been very favourable indeed for the facility. And you can see in 2013, 14, 15, they were very low indeed. Picked up a bit in 2016. 2017 looks very good, and we are hoping that that will be as good a year as 2015 potentially, in the fullness of time when all the claims have developed fully. But overall, looking at combined ratio, that is to say the net profit or loss of the facility over recent years, 100% being break even, which counts for the black line there, we've done pretty well. There are only 2 years when we've actually made an individual year's loss, as you can see there, and the years 13, 14, 15 were exceptionally good. 2018 looks very good also. I should add that the insurance year for Eagle Ocean Marine, due to reinsurance purposes, begins on July the 1st of every year. It's not a February the 20th or January the 1st commencement. So we're halfway through the 2018-2019 year at present, but the claims are developing very nicely indeed. And historically, cumulatively, we're running at a 67% combined ratio, which I think those of you in the insurance business here, for this kind of marine business, will know represents a pretty good result for this sort of business. And we are told by our co-venturers at Lloyd's that it is the best performing facility of this kind in the market. Now, I give a terrible hostage to fortune by saying that, and you could say, the Greek tradition, it's very hubristic of me to do so, but I think it deserves a great deal of credit. And of course, those profits that it makes, that 30+% profit that it makes, inures to the benefit of the mutual members. It's their money. And the interests of the mutual members is at the heart of what we do for Eagle Ocean Marine and driving it forward to create profit for the members, and at the same time provide all kinds of cross-selling opportunities for the mutual members too, because we've had plenty of cases where insureds into Eagle Ocean Marine have, in due course, because they've been very happy with the service and all the rest of it that goes with it, have entered vessels, larger ships, in the American Club. And that has been a trend that obviously we encourage, and one that has again inured to the benefit of the mutual members. So I'm almost finished. Developing trends. How do we see what's going on in the market at the moment? Because we are in an interesting period, I suggest. Developing trends in mutual and fixed premium business. They obviously have many trends in common. Claims, at least in our experience, have remained subdued. I think other clubs have seen maybe something rather different over the last 12 months or so, but I think all clubs will say that the relatively benign period of claims development from 2014, say, to 2016-17 inevitably has to come to an end at some point. How much longer will that be? Reinsurance costs, as many of you will be aware, both in relation to pooling contributions and on the general excess of loss reinsurance, have been in decline over recent years. The question is, at what point does the law of diminishing returns apply? Between 2015 and 2018, the last 3 complete years of those renewals, the international group has saved $100 million of cost for the general excess of loss reinsurance contract alone over that time. So that's been very positive, and it's reflected the relatively soft reinsurance markets. The question is, how much longer is that likely to be the case? But we're optimistic that we'll have a good reinsurance renewal for the group this year. And there'll be more about that in due course from all group clubs. Now, as you saw earlier, the investment results for 2017 were exceptionally good. 2018 is going to be more challenging. And not only for the American club, although, as I said earlier, we're optimistic we'll be somewhat ahead, but if you hold very large portfolios of bonds against rising interest rates, particularly against US government securities, then that might be challenging, because you might find that you might be having unrealized losses on your investment account by year end. Club diversification, of which of course we've been subscribing to at the American Club over recent years, has been moderating a bit. I think that the distinction between the traditional non-diversifying clubs and those like us has been made. Others may join in fullness of time. But of course there was one club recently that closed down its Lloyd's syndicate. So the diversification in that particular context was that they've retreated to some extent from diversification in that way. But we believe very firmly, and clearly with Ηλίας sitting there, he is a living testament to it, that there is a great deal of synergy to be found between the hull business and what we do on the P&I side, and we'll be talking a bit more about that later. The fixed P&I premium sector is undergoing change at the moment. You'll be aware that Hanseatic and the Navigators business was recently acquired by Thomas Miller Specialty. Royal Sun Alliance have withdrawn their support from Lodestar. They're looking to alternative security going forward. All this, from our point of view at EOM, actually is good news, to be honest, because we're a steady Eddie in this market, and we've done pretty well out of it. So with greater consolidation and with others coming out of the market, we feel these changes represent opportunity for us. Regulatory demands are mounting. Nobody who is involved in either the insurance or the shipping business can deny that, and Vince will be talking about the particular challenges of running a shipping and insurance business in the current climate. But very briefly, we have MLC issues, GDPR, which affects just much more than the insurance and shipping industries. Sanctions, my goodness me, that changes every day and is a real headache for all of us. The sulfur cap, IMO 2020, regulations coming in just over a year, ballast water management, etc., etc. All of these create great challenges for the shipping industry, and of course they have a knock-on effect on what we do in the insurance space. There is, on low sulfur in particular, I think this will be further discussed within group club boards over the next several months and years, what would be the implications of engine malfunctions created by that sort of thing from an insurance point of view and otherwise. Are we at an inflection point for the industry, just changing pace a bit? Some people are saying, well, hull rates are going up and, reinsurance costs may be stabilizing and claims are going up. Is this, in other words, going to be the last year of soft renewals? Well, nobody knows until the renewal has come and gone, of course, but it's possible that it might be. All the clubs virtually within the international group are going for a 0% general increase, those that have declared so far, and I think that's a vast majority of them, with the exception of one. So we'll see where that leads, but in 2020 the circumstances might be somewhat different, but time will tell. So the way ahead, this is my last slide, before I want to tell you a true story, incidentally, so wait. So put up with it. Steady as she goes, that's the way ahead. We've achieved very much in recent years, he says, congratulating his colleagues for having done so much, particularly here in this market, and we're delighted to have grown our staff here in Greece recently. Melina Souli, of course, joined recently, and there are changes that have also taken place that Dorothea will be talking about. We will continue to have a disciplined approach to risk selection and rating. There will be a continued emphasis on loss prevention and claims control. Many of you who have had the benefit of Bill Moore, who's sitting here, attention to loss prevention will be aware of how important we regard this as an element of what we do. We are, as you will have seen, prudently diversifying into new areas of business, Eagle Ocean Marine, and more recently American Hellenic Hull, and it is undoubtedly having its benefits. We will remain uncompromisingly solid with our members in uncertain times. We, as I mentioned earlier, so far as EOM specifically are concerned, will take a very prudent view on that going forward. The market is changing dramatically, and that presents a lot of opportunity for that brand, but we want to make sure that it's still contributing significantly to what we do on the mutual side of the business. We've got to stay ahead of the service curve. We really try hard to do that in a variety of different areas, so you'll be seeing more from us, I think, over the 12 months in a variety of ways. We celebrated the successful centennial in 2017. Most of you, I hope, if not all of you, came to our party at the Grand Bretagne last year, which means, as I said, it's 2 years since we sort of did this. 2 years since we bored you with all this stuff. But we did actually provide, we hope, some great entertainment last year. And as a result of the centennial, the second century of service has now dawned. There you are. The dawn of a second century of service. Dawn there over a lighthouse. I trust it's in Greece, Dorothea. It's dawned. So there we are. We have reasons to believe that things are going pretty well at the moment. We're upbeat. We live in challenging times. I don't need to say that to ship owners and people in the insurance business. But as I've said so often, as I said right at the beginning, Greece is the jewel in our crown. We're terribly proud of our relationships with all of you here. Thank you very much indeed for coming and for listening to all that. But I did promise that I'd tell you a true story. And I have a question to ask, actually. Some of you may not remember the individual I'm talking about. Some of you who were around maybe in the 70s and into the 80s, maybe. There was an insurance broker called Ted Grabbit. Do you remember him at all, Ted Grabbit? He was a great friend of mine. He died a few years ago, actually. He was much older than I was. A great friend of mine, Ted. We had some dealings with him when I was at Jardines in the early 90s. He was originally a solicitor, actually, interestingly. He formed a firm in London called Sue, Grabbit and Run. He then thought he wanted to go into commercial life and became an insurance broker in the Lloyd's market, very successfully. He set up a firm with two others in the late 1970s, and that was a really interesting time at Lloyd's. It was a bit of a cowboy sort of time in many respects, and you had in the marine and energy sector, before all the big reforms came in, after they lost a lot of money for their names in the early 90s. But at that time, there were lots of these smaller firms that were eventually acquired by the larger, the Marshes and the Aons. Aon in particular was very, very active. And his firm was called Gross Up, Grab It and Sell. So, and he did sell with Mr. Gross Up and Sell. He made a lot of money, did Ted. But subsequent to that, he then put a lot of his money back into Lloyd's and so on, made several investments, but they all went terribly wrong. he really was left by the early 1990s with massive Lloyd losses and other things that he'd done that had effectively bankrupted him. And he told me this story, a couple of years after he had this particular experience that I want to tell you about now. It was he literally had no more than £100 in cash in his pocket. And he was saying to himself, I am truly the unluckiest man in the world. This is awful. And he got up one Saturday morning and said, I've got £100. I'm going to go to the pub at lunchtime, spend £50 getting myself a little bit sozzled. Then I'm going to put the other £50, I'll buy £10 worth of lottery tickets. It was when the national lottery started in Great Britain. And then I'm going to put the other £40 in a bookies, on the race, on the horses. So that's exactly what he did. He got himself a bit tipsy, bought lottery tickets to them being drawn that evening. And that he put £40 on what they call multipliers. You probably know that. And he took 4 or 5 horses at Sandown Park, one at 100 to 1, one at 33 to 1, one at 40 to 1, one at 66 to 1, and so on. And believe it or not, as the afternoon advanced, each of those horses won. Each of them. Now, the bookie involved was not very happy about this. So when Ted went to get his winnings, they said to him, look, I've only got 20,000 quid in cash, but, I owe you 150,000 for these odds, this multiplier. But you take 20,000 now, keep it safe, I'll put it in this bag for you, and off you go. And Ted was thinking, my goodness, this is amazing. I was the unluckiest man in the world, and now I'm the luckiest man in the world. This is amazing. So he was thinking of what to do, and he happened to go by a television sales place. It was closed at that time, and a television was on, and they were drawing the national lottery. And he took out his thing, and 37, 49, 35, 46, 47, winning ball 17. That's amazing! And he'd won. He'd won £15 million. The lottery was quite modest in those days, but there he was with £20,000 in cash. He'd just won £15 million. So he's saying to himself, I must be the luckiest man in the world now. It's amazing. Unlucky to lucky. It's just unbelievable. So he went to an Indian restaurant. He's very fond of Indian food, Ted. I had many Indian meals with him. He went to an Indian restaurant and, had something to eat. It was in Wimbledon, Broadway, actually. He used to live quite close to where I used to live. Went in there, had this and bought everybody champagne and all the rest of it. And towards the end of the evening, after he'd had a wonderful meal and, was thinking about how lucky he was, the daughter of the proprietor of the restaurant came across, a beautiful Indian girl, absolutely stunning Indian girl, came across to him and said, I've been admiring you across the room, actually. Mr. Grabbit, she actually saw his credit card thing. He said, yes, I wondered whether you'd like to spend the night with me. And he says, good grief, well, I hadn't thought of it, but maybe I will. It's amazing, I must be the luckiest man in the world. So anyway, they went back to her place and they had an enjoyable night together. And the following morning, he was lying in bed there and she was asleep, and the sun was coming in and she was just with her head up on the pillow. And being an Indian lady, she had a coal mark, how Indian ladies do, red there. And Ted was looking at this, and he thought to himself, I wonder what's underneath that. So he started to scratch it. And then came the words, congratulations, you've won a Mercedes-Benz. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, everyone, and it's always a pleasure following this magnificent joke from Joe. I will come back to the boring stuff myself. So, just following from what Joe has just said is that American Hellenic is a continuation of the excellent service that you've been receiving from the American P&I Club. And one of our main pillars, let's say, of our service is that we actually understand shipping and we do actually understand owners. And in this current market environment that you're all living in, we are able to understand the brokers and we can actually offer, let's say, bespoke products for your actual clients and owners in order to combat this particular challenging and changing environment in insurance. So as going on, and I will try to be as brief as possible. American Hellenic remains an autonomous marine underwriter. Being an autonomous marine underwriter means that even though the capital provider remains American P&I Club, we actually, doesn't actually guarantees being a member of the American Club guarantees entries to the American Hellenic hull, and the other way around, of course. We actually continue to write hull and machinery up to $10 million, IV and MII, and loss of hire being part of a hull cover. We remain a fixed premium, as you can appreciate, and our underwriting guidelines are always that we do not accept signals, unfortunately. We have a fleet age, the average age of the fleet has to be around 15 years. Sanctions, of course, we're all bound by sanctions nowadays. We don't accept independent business. We don't accept owners just stepping in and just asking for a quotation. We only go through broker channels. And our pen remains independent, being that we don't rely in any actual reinsurer, or we don't actually rely on any rating schedule at all. Our pricing is totally independent, and actually we try to charge as fair as possible the premium is concerned. The current, we're fairly proud of what we have achieved till now, the last 28 months of our operation. We have already written $25 million of premium, and almost 2,300 vessels are insured with us. The good thing about our underwriting process is the fact that we actually retain a very low loss ratio of 66%, despite the fact that our lines are fairly modest, of around 8%. We remain one of the fastest growing hull and machinery underwriters currently in the market, and in comparison with other, let's say, ventures that just started when we started, we see now a lot of companies now just moving out of the hull and machinery market due to massive losses that they've been encountering. Our drivers, let's say, on our underwriting is basically to be as prudent as possible and to treat American Hellenic as an investment of the American P&I Club. That means that we treat it in such a manner in order, let's say, to be able any profits to be returned back to its members. So we have no need, let's say, to grow as fast as possible, even though we do actually grow very fast. But on the other hand, we cannot neglect, let's say, the fact that we have to be very prudent and very select on what we do. Within those 28 months, we have managed to extend our reach, let's say, well outside Greece, even though Greece remains our main focus. Brokers will find very interesting here that, especially in Greece, Greek brokers basically produce Greek business. However, only 52 companies have been produced by Greek brokers, whilst we do have 105 Greek companies in our books already. This suggests that Greece is becoming an extremely international and extremely competitive environment where everyone has to pick up its own standards, and also we actually have to provide better service. The challenging and the differentiating factor of ours, of course, is the fact that we are actually based in Limassol, because the underwriting is done from Limassol, Cyprus, and we are based in Piraeus, which means that we actually have an edge against all the major competitors that we are facing. We actually speak the same language as you do, and we take a huge pride that we're Greeks, and we want to service the Greek community as much as possible. And the beauty of it is, of course, that we are backed by the American P&I Club, which is pro-Greece, and I think is one of the pro-Greece clubs of the whole group. Turning now to the claims performance. Claims performance is fairly good. We tend to pay claims fairly quickly. The reason why is that basically we follow traditional leaders, and once the leader has approved the claim, there is no reason for us to retain the funds further than a decent amount of time, which I think 2 weeks is too much. However, I would like to stress that despite the fact that we're a follow market, I would like to stress to the market in general that the choice of a leader is becoming more and more expensive. What I want to say is that certain traditional leaders now are charging more and more handling fees, inverted commas handling fees. And by those handling fees, they actually give the expense to the follow markets to pay for it. What the owners and the clients basically don't realize is that the actual cost that the leader is charging, it reflects to their claims record. Therefore, now that the market is picking up and the rates are picking up, the choice of a leader will reflect also on the choice of their premium that they actually pay. And I have to draw your attention because when we lead business, first of all, we don't charge, there is no hidden charges. But on the other hand, we consider that the premium is always should be there to reflect all the services that the underwriter has to offer. And of course, we try to differentiate by everybody else by being as quickly as possible in our payments. Now, this is our insurance program, the structure of our insurance program. Our strength is our insurers, and apart from the capital providing and the backing of the American P&I, our insurers are there to help us, let's say, sustain this growth and this strength. The current structure of the program is that we actually have a 15% quota share led by Korean Re, whilst we have an excess of loss program of $500,000 upwards up to $10 million. In certain risks, we actually buy facultative from Gen Re, which is all of them, of course, are A-rated companies. Our record, in general, with the excess of loss is impeccable. Therefore, our renewal this year, which was in August, was with a huge reduction. Our support, let's say, this main panel of reinsurers has been there with us from the day one, so their confidence is for us our vote of how they trust us on our underwriting and our claims handling ability. And we hope that we will continue this. We hope this year also, as it looks, the claims will be fairly modest and we will be able to get a further reduction on our insurances. And sorry about the slide, it's a bit slow. This is our financial institution that they actually accept American Hellenic as an insurer, as a marine underwriter. American Hellenic, being a Solvency II compliant company, means that it's a triple B counterparty risk, carries a triple B counterparty risk. The Solvency II requires for every underwriter to be compliant with, to cover for all his liabilities, 99.5% of all his liabilities to be covered either by cash or assets or reinsurances. American Hellenic currently stands at 120%, which makes us even stronger than that. And what we are actually pride ourselves, the fact that we don't actually have an official rating yet from AM Best, even though we are in discussions and we are currently we will be undergoing our second review now with AM Best, we still are an approved security by all those institutions. I want to say a few words about the future now, because you all hear that rates are going up and the market is becoming more expensive. American Hellenic has been always there to offer a fair premium. It appears that the last couple of years, fair premium was expensive. The results of not offering fair premium is that a lot of underwriters have gone out of business now. American Hellenic remains in business because it always will attempt to offer a fair premium. Fair premium might not be a favorite, let's say, sometimes, but now that you require a stable partner to continue the owners to continue their growth, you require also stable and robust underwriters to support your growth. So we consider for this year that we will be unable to offer terms to below the claim cost of every owner. Meaning claim cost, how we calculate the claim cost is that we take the last 5 years of claims, and we do not wish, and we will not be giving you terms below the claim cost. On the other hand, we will not be able to give renewals to clients that they go over 100% loss ratios, unless there is a complete story of how they're going to mitigate those particular losses. We will encourage owners with active claim records to seek alternative terms, even more strict terms, in order not to avoid to pay too much rises. As we see now in the market, claim active accounts, they are looking on charges on rises up to 100%. We have seen 150%. Therefore, we encourage, let's say, owners, if they are claims active, to increase maybe their deductibles accept less coverage in order, let's say, not to have a huge expenditure on their premium. We will continue to offer, as I said, fair premium to all of you, fair rates to all of you, as long as we maintain our standards, and we will hope with your support to be able in the next couple of years to be able to start leading business also here in Greece and internationally. If you wish to contact the contact details of the American Hellenic are there. I thank you for your time and thank you.
Last time I had a mic in my hand, it was at our 100th centennial celebration. And I sang songs rather than speak about financials. I think I prefer that. I'm not going to go through the financials again. Joe did a good job. Ilya Tsakíris did a good job on the state of affairs. I'm here to talk about regulations and about business. A lot of businessmen and women here. It isn't easy running a business at any time, but it's becoming more and more difficult as regulations are being layered on. As a business owner knows, you stay awake at night. It's 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and you don't sleep. You worry about the lights being on, you worry about your employees being paid, and you're worried about your clients and your customers being served. Well, the P&I Club is no different. It's complex to run a P&I, international group P&I Club. It's complex running your businesses. And we need to appreciate each other's hard work, and we do. Running a P&I Club is more than just the two dimensions you see on a flat piece of paper. There's a lot of detail that goes behind running any company. The P&I Clubs are no different. We're here to service the market, as other maritime service providers here today as well do every day of the year. Now, am I supposed to click this? All right. I just wanted to show a few of the regulations. These are not all the regulations, just a few of the regulations that the ship owner is concerned with, and the P&I Club is concerned with, because it has an impact on everyone, on the hull and machinery, on the P&I Clubs, and on the ship owners. Gives a lot of work to the attorneys, but so they need to be fed as well, and of great assistance. Which one? The bottom one? You all recognize these regulations. GDPR, that's like closing the barn door after the horses left. GDPR is a tough issue to corral. If anyone here is a Marriott member and a Starwoods member, if you need any of your personal data, I have it here. You can come up to me later and I can share that with you. On top of all the regulations, let's throw in sanctions as well. Now, sanctions disturbs the natural order of the maritime community. It isn't natural to have sanctions. Ship owners are looking for freight, and freight is available in many parts. Iran is one of those that carrying oil for the tankers. There are so many sanctions layered on top. We have to look every day at what the new decision is coming out of Washington. So we do appreciate the time, the existence of the sanctions, and how much you have to contend with these. And the clubs, all the international group P&I clubs, are trying their best to keep you well informed and to keep you out of trouble. Now, the difference between our business and your business is that we're running a not-for-profit. Now, that should give you a headache. Businesses usually run a business to make a profit. We run the business, the P&I Club, so we don't make a profit, and it's designed to charge enough premium to satisfy the bills. A trifecta for a P&I Club are rising premiums, falling claims, and an investment return that's greater than 5%. But that does not happen. It happens once in a while, but it doesn't happen as a regular routine. We wish it did happen more often, And that is money in the bank, and it serves the membership. It doesn't belong to us. It doesn't belong to the club. It belongs to the members who are members of the club. That's a main difference. It used to be that S&P, this is a recent phenomenon. S&P, Standard & Poor's, didn't pay too much attention to ratings, but now they do pay attention to ratings, and Solvency II has been introduced. A Solvency II type of regulation in the United States is called RBC, or risk-based capital. That was the predecessor of Solvency II. It's similar, not the same as what we have to go through, which we do have to go through with Solvency II regulations for our American Hellenic Hull insurance company. It's an eye-opener. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of hands, a lot of governance, and everyone and every other P&I club and insurance clubs and many of the businesses today are concerned about Solvency II and how to get around, how to operate within the Solvency II borders. 150 years, almost 150 years that P&I clubs have been in existence, we didn't need this kind of regulation. They were regulated quite well. The regulators now believe more in the commercial insurance model. So, and S&P has joined that with rating, and it's just the way of the world. If you don't have an A or triple B plus, an investment grade rating, it's considered to be less financially secure. Well, that's not true with the international group P&I clubs. We've said this before. There's the counterparty strength of every one of the P&I clubs joining together in this collective. And it's not a cartel, as some have described it. It's a collective. And the collective is to the benefit of the shipowning community. If it wasn't, it wouldn't exist today. So it's a very, very strong collective, a strong group protecting the shipowning community. We're proud to be a member of that. The American club's statutory reserves are running at about 150% above the RBC, the risk-based capital level. I just threw this up here. This is Clarkson research, and it shows you the environmental timeline, regulation timeline. Now, we all know what's happening on the environmental side and the emissions control and the low sulfur fuels. I'm not going to raise everybody's blood pressure today, but sometimes regulations are passed without the reality of business. Government bodies do that often. They think of a good regulation, and I'm not saying there's good reasons behind a lot of regulations. SOLAS is excellent, of course, example of good regulation, protection. But governments need to think about the reality of what they're putting in place. And it's unrealistic what's going on. In my opinion, it's unrealistic. This just shows you a graph. It almost looks like the international club's reinsurance schematic. And this is another one from Vincent Co. And it gives you a timeline of many of the major regulations. I'm not here to discuss each one of the regulations. I just wanted to show the level of regulations that are imposed upon the shipping community and your P&I clubs to assist you in piloting through these types of regulations. Now, it takes talent to run any company, your company and our company. We could not be here today, and we have maintained consistent surplus, and Joe had pointed out before that we have maintained a consistent free reserve per ton. Very difficult to do in a not-for-profit structure, but we've managed to do it. And we've done it with declining premium, fortunate to have some good experience, claims experience years, and we had some good results on investment returns overall, although they're getting weaker. It's a changing market. Business owners have to think about the past. You're concerned a lot with the present, but you're even more concerned with the future. It's hard to predict the future, so we hope for the best. We need to be able to project also what the future holds as an insurance company, because the regulators expect you to meet certain standards and have certain surplus. So we have enough surplus. We have a very, very strong strong backing by the international group of all the P&I clubs, so the counterparty strength is second to none. So that's why S&P ratings, as far as we're concerned, for a P&I club, don't really match up in a line like other commercial, for-profit insurance companies that are not structured like an international group club. To run a company, as you know, you need extremely good talent, dedicated talent, and we have that at the American Club, and we're proud to present that at the American Club. We like the old school method. I wrote an article at the end of the Currents, October 2018 Currents magazine that we publish. It talked about the old days. Remember the old days. It seems like the older we get, we say, remember the old days. I remember the old days we did this and we did that. Well, in the old days, when I worked for the Hertz Corporation, we didn't have emails, didn't have a cell phone, unless it was in a big box. They eventually made a big box where it was a portable phone. But we had a great advancement was the telefax machine. You know, how a piece of paper got into a machine on one side and got across the world on the other side, looking very much like the one you sent, was incredible. But what you had to do is to compose a letter. Sometimes we even wrote longhand a letter, but you composed the letter. The difference between then and now, of course, emails, the internet is making everything much faster, much more convenient, but it's also a little dangerous, and it takes away some of the relationships that we used to have in the past. Communicating with each other and not communicating by a text or an email. A lot of people today say, did you talk to so-and-so? And they say yes, but they mean they texted them. That's not what we did in the past. It's the relationships that matter. Electronic emails have no personality. And sometimes the wrong personality comes through your email. And it goes global if something get out that you didn't really mean to say exactly that way. So it's a benefit and it's a curse. But we at the American Club like to do it the old way. We like to be in touch with people. We like to call them, listen to the intonations of you having a good day or bad day. You can tell if somebody is listening and understands what you're talking about, not going back and forth with a half a dozen emails that are copying just about everybody in the world. So it's important to us that we communicate properly and effectively and in a formal and friendly relationship with our membership and the community, the market in general. So we have instilled that in our own team, and I think we're doing a good job. We can always do better. We like to see and speak with each one of you, and so that you know that you matter to us, and we care. So we do have a fabulous team. I'll just mention a few. Dorothea is going to go through a more detailed list, but I just want to mention a few. Don Moore, are you in the house, Don Moore? Come up here, Don. There's a seat here for you. We're not going to charge you anything extra either. Don Moore has been promoted to the Global Claims Director position. Thank you, Don. We've also promoted Joanna Kukuli. Where's Joanna? Joanna, come up here too. Joanna is now the Deputy Global Claims Director. And she's the first woman to hold that position. You could have a seat there, anywhere. She's the first woman to hold that position, and the first time the position has been given outside of headquarters, New York. It's strategic. This is a concentration of our membership, and we picked the best person for the job, and we're proud to have Joanna as that Deputy Claims Director. Thank you, Joanna. We also have a few other executives. Bill Moore. Bill, stand up, Bill. You all know Bill, Loss Prevention Safety Survey. Tom Hamilton. Is Tom in this room or is he on another floor? Tom back there, he's Global Director of Underwriting. Thank you, Tom. So you can see we have a number of other placements in New York, and Dorothea will go through that in more detail. And they're younger than Joe and I too, believe it or not, although we're young guys. Well, we're here to pilot the ship, and we'll do that as long as we need to, and we need to, and we want to. So we're around. I think that was, well, I can't forget the last one. I'll introduce her also, Dorothea Iowanu. Dorothea, earlier this year, was promoted to Global Commercial Business Director. And did I say that right? The Global Chief Commercial Officer. Chief Commercial Officer. Well, you're also Global Business Development Director as well. Okay, and Chief Commercial Officer. Now, as a Chief Commercial Officer, she's getting involved in more and more of the operations. And we have visited each of the satellite offices, and we're going through a methodic review of what they need to service the market that they are representing. And so Dorothy is assisting greatly Joe and I in that respect as well. So I will now turn the mic over to Dorothea, and she will introduce you to all of our team members. Thank you.
Thank you. So I get the greatest part of today, and that's talking about our people. As was mentioned earlier, it's been 2 years since we had our last market presentation. And in those 2 years, we've had a number of changes. Some of them were mentioned, and I'm going to go through those as well. I think that we all know that without change, there's no growth or progress. Although I'm going to be the first one to admit that I was crying when I emptied out my desk. Anyway, so one of the major changes actually that we had was this year in June. Let's go. This year in June, the board voted in a new chairman. And George actually had to step out, but George Michalis, who is the managing director of Phoenix Shipping and Trading and comes right out of this community right here, was elected our new chairman of the board, with the deputy chairman being voted in, Bob Bondurant, who is the CFO of Martin Resource Management. And as you see, this is the picture of the current board. Many of the faces you probably know very well, because we are very proud to say that there are 8 board members that have Greek heritage. Let's go to the next slide. So now, we've come a long way over the last 20 plus years, and you'll see we have offices all over the world that serve every single time zone. And I'm going to start with our central office, which is right there, and which you'll see now, I'm in it. So, New York office is our central office. It's our backbone. It's our hub. It's where you're going to find every single department you can possibly imagine. It's where we deal with all of the complicated aspects of operations that Vince was talking about earlier. So besides the classic departments of underwriting and claims and LP and BD, you're going to find also actuarial, all the executive management, the finance, the human resource, the compliance, the IT, security. This is where you're going to find everybody, and this is our core team. Obviously led by these 2 very familiar people here, Joe and Vince, who many of you, I don't know if you know, have a background in legal and finance, respectively. And even though they definitely don't look it, they each carry more than 40 years of experience under their belts. I know that Vince referred to our 3 heads of departments, and I just want to give you a little bit of background, because I think it's very important that we understand who the people are that run things and run the departments. And these are the people that help take the club into, well, the next century for us, and definitely forward with progress. So Don was recently made the Global Claims Director, and Don has been with us for a very long time. Don is probably one of the oldest, I didn't like to say oldest, I'm sorry, Don. We talked about this yesterday. Longest standing employees of the managers. He's been with us since 1992. Carries with him as well 40 years of experience. He's a graduate of the New York Maritime College at Fort Schuyler, and he's also a former licensed merchant maritime officer and a retired naval officer. He's a full member of the Association of Average Adjusters of the United States and Canada, and he has handled probably almost every single type of claim you can possibly imagine. Tom, I know, is very familiar to everybody in this market. Tom definitely doesn't look it, but Tom actually carries 20 years of overall experience in the maritime industry because he started as a seaman in U.S. passenger trade in the mid-90s. He's also a graduate of the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy, carries a third officer's unlimited tonnage license, and he serves currently as our global underwriting director. William Moore, Bill Moore, as we know him, sitting right here, is our global loss prevention director. Bill has over 25 years of experience in the maritime industry, and he actually carries a doctorate in naval engineering from the University of California, and he's also a graduate of MIT. I think he's probably gone to school with a number of people in this room. He's worked in the past with a major classification society as well as another IG club, and he's been with us for 15 years. And he oversees all of the loss prevention initiatives, and some of you I know are very actively following those initiatives, and some of which have achieved actually industry awards, which we're very proud of. Following on from the New York office, I just want to mention that we actually have a hub in Houston now because of our significant membership in that area. That opened in July 2016, and there are 2 U.S. qualified lawyers, experts in the full range of P&I claims. One of our other hubs is London, and you'll see a face that used to be in Greece is now in London, and that's Despina. London is a hub serving all regions, and it's got strong ties with the broking community of London. It actually has a combined experience of 130 years in the industry. Moving on to the Far East. So I don't know if many of you know that, but our Shanghai office actually is led by a Greek national based in the region, that's Dimitris Sirinakis, and the team has a combined experience of about 50 years with UK and Chinese qualified lawyers, as well as a seasoned regional underwriting specialist. The Shanghai office doesn't only serve that local market, but actually serves all of our members in this market that call Chinese ports. And then we have Hong Kong. Hong Kong is led by Chris Hall, and the team has a combined experience of almost 3/4 of a century. And in addition to being a market liaison for the South and Southeast Asian region, the Hong Kong office actually plays a critical role in providing some technical advice and loss prevention guidance to members on this side of the world. Now, we're going to get to Piraeus. When I was preparing this presentation, I went back into some of my old presentations, and I looked back when I first started doing this in 2012. Most of you have been with the club for many years now, and you know how the Piraeus office has grown over the years. And this is, of course, due to the support. And this was us just a little while ago in 2012. And this is us now. More than doubled in size. And obviously this has to do with the support and the loyalty of this market here. And I have to say, actually, and I think that my team was doing some research, and we were comparing this office to some of the other offices in Piraeus, and I think we are probably one of the largest now and one of the most qualified, I would like to say, in the region. So not only have we invested, though, in the best local talent to serve this region, but the managers, as Vince mentioned before, have so much faith in this office and of the people here in particular that we made a decision recently to shift part of the global management of claims to the Piraeus office to better serve the membership globally by way of promotion of Joanna Kukuli, and we're very proud of that. So I just want to go through a little bit so that people really understand the depth of experience, because I know these all look like beautiful young faces, but they are highly qualified and have a lot of meat behind them in terms of their experience in the maritime industry. So like, for example, I don't know if many of you know, Joanna is actually a triple qualified lawyer, and she is just about hitting about 20 years of work experience, having both practiced law and also worked at a major container operator in Piraeus before joining us in 2011. So Joanna has been basically overseeing the claims management of this office for the last few years, and she has managed every single possible type of claim you can think about, you can imagine, and it was a natural choice, I think, to raise her to assist Don in the global claims management. And she has also actually recently been appointed the joint managing director of the Piraeus office, which is why I had to empty out my desk. But anyway, so Mariví, standing next to her, who has also been recently promoted, is now the Piraeus P&I claims manager. And Mariví, although she definitely doesn't look it, brings 20 years to the table because she started a very long time ago when I first came to Greece. We started together in the same company, and she was a big assistance to me. And she was actually going to school at night while working during the day. So she is a graduate in shipping and transport. And she has basically spent her whole career almost exclusively in marine insurance, managing P&I claims. She's been with us since the opening in 2005, and we're very pleased with her recent promotion. Elena, I think everybody can see her there right behind Joanna. So Elena recently joined us from another P&I club. We won't mention names, but she's much happier now. Right? So she's not a new face to the market. She spent 20 years working in claims, managing both P&I and FD&D. And actually, I remember Elena in her first steps as well, because it was about the same time when I came to Greece and started in the shipping industry. So Elena comes with experience in both P&I, FD&D, also in a ship management company. Basically spent almost her whole career with another P&I club. She's a lawyer, qualified in Greece and the UK. And she carries a dual role with us. So Alina's bringing over her marketing and her production experience and has taken over the Regional Business Development Director position, as well as FD&D Manager for the Piraeus office. And we are very, very excited to have Alina join us. So just from these three individuals, the Piraeus office management now boasts over 60 years of combined experience, which is really quite impressive. But the expertise does not stop there. We have Adonis Bavas, for those of you who know us as the Equal Opportunity Employer, one of our treasured individuals, a Greek qualified lawyer with 2 LLMs. Adonis handles the full range of claims with an emphasis on FD&D. He's got 14 years of experience overall, 10 practicing with one of the leading English firms here in Piraeus, the last 4 with us at SEB Hellas, and Adonis was recently elevated to a senior claims executive. Danai Mada, as many of you know, the club has a very active internship program. And Danai was actually the Piraeus office's very first intern in 2006. She's a qualified lawyer, holds an LLM and an MBA, by the way, which she did while working full-time. Danai has 8 years of experience in the maritime industry, all with the American Club, and is currently a claims executive handling both P&I and FD&D. Now, there's another new face here, probably new to Piraeus, but probably not new to many of you. Nikki Tigga recently joined us from London, relocating. Nikki holds a master's in shipping and recently came to us bringing her 7 years of experience with us, as well as 2 years in ship management prior to that. And Nikki, as a claims executive, also handles the full range of P&I, FD&D, and we're very excited to have Nikki with us as well. Chrysanthi, and at the end you're all going to come up here. But Chrysanthi Paplomata. Chrysanthi also rose up from the ranks of intern with the club. She's a qualified Greek lawyer with an LLM from a combined program of UK and China, and we are very proud of Chrysanthi's capabilities in Chinese in addition to Greek and English. And actually, she just returned for a period of about a month spending with our colleagues in the Shanghai office. Chrysanthi has 6 years of overall experience, 5 of which have been with the club, and as a claims executive, she handles the full range of claims. And I have to say, actually, that I know that some clubs like to make people concentrate on specific things. We generally don't do that at the American Club, because we believe that in order to be the best, to give the best possible service and to have smooth transition no matter who's in the office, everybody needs to know about every type of claim. Annie Papadimitriou, who's right here, who you see all the time. Annie is definitely not a new face, and very likely one of the best-known faces of the club here in Greece. Annie holds a degree in communications and PR, and that's helped us immensely, and has 16 years of experience in the industry, having come from a ship operator prior to joining the office in 2005. Annie is definitely the heart of this office as our administrative office manager, as well as our business development administrator. She's responsible for managing the administrative duties of the office on a daily basis, as well as organizing all the marketing activities, and me. And the truth is that very little would ever get done without Annie's assistance. Stavroula, she's right next to the other man we have in the office. So Stavroula actually has 20 years of overall working experience, with 12 of them being with the club, with the Piraeus office. Through the years, Stavroula actually really mastered the interpretation of all applicable deductibles of the club. Okay? And now holds the position of claims processing administrator and has the most important role of everybody in this office. She ultimately makes sure that all of you get paid. So then we have our next generation that is coming up the ranks. And that's, one of them is Christina Tsibouklivi. And Christina holds a degree in maritime studies and is one of our younger generation of talent, having come up also through the ranks of an internship. She has 5 years of experience, 3 of those in marine insurance with us, and she actually holds 3 levels of certification for insurance intermediaries by the National Bank of Greece, and we're very proud of that. And Christina supports all departments, but recently has gotten more concentrated in digital marketing and the social media team, and is responsible for many of our news feeds that you read. Then we have Charalabos Tipoglu, who also has come in through the ranks of an intern, which we definitely invest in quite a lot because we believe it's the best way to create the next generation of a talent pool. He holds a degree in maritime studies, and he also attained certification with the professional qualifying examinations through the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers. Tara supports all departments, including doing precautionary surveys, but he's recently taken a more active role in business development, which I'm very happy about, and does a lot of market research for us and data analytics, and as we all know, data analytics is the future for management. Finally, we have Maria Filipidou, currently the youngest employee of the Piraeus office. She was yet one more bit of talent that rose up through the ranks of intern. She holds a degree in international business and has been with us for almost 2 years. Maria currently supports all departments, but has a particular emphasis on business development and marketing, and was critical also in a number of projects we worked on lately on CRM and data analytics. So, all together, if you put all of their experience, we're talking about over 140 years of combined experience. If everybody here, can you all just come up for a second? Can you just do me that favor? Because I think it's really important that people see who we are and understand the depth of the service that we try to provide in this market. And like I said earlier, this couldn't be possible if we didn't have your support. We've been growing along with you. So, everybody's here, right? Great. Okay. So, I just have one more slide, but I would like you to stay sort of up close here, if you can, sort of go to the left and the right, or come over here. No, I said, did I say you? I said you, right? Okay. I didn't forget her. Okay. Did I forget anybody? No. Okay, great. Okay. So then we also have, obviously, our subsidiary, AWHIC, which is what we like to call it, which has added depth and additional experience and expertise to the club's team with Ilias Tsakíris and his professionals, bringing with them over 125 years of combined experience. So, this is who we are. There we go. This is who we are. We've grown with you. We've grown with you and because of you. And I think that we've come a long way, and we look forward to continuing the journey together. Thank you. Thank you. So we have refreshments downstairs on the 8th and the 7th floors, I think, right? Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope we didn't tire you too much. I hope you found it interesting. And again, thank you.